All of you for staying. The meeting's already been called to order. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So move.
Second. It's been moved and properly second that we adopt the agenda as written. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from November 1st, 2022?
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the minutes from November the 1st, 2022. All in favor, let it be known by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 4, new business solar projects. It's on you. Thank you.
Thank you all for staying. I know you don't all have to be here, so I appreciate it. But if y'all hear my stomach growling, I can't help that. What I've given you is a packet of information of some things that we've done last year. It's not a true report, but the first item that you have is just some highlights of our month last year, or of each month last year. I'm going to go through this real quickly. One of the highlights that I thought was really neat is I was at the South Carolina Manufacturing Conference in November and did not know that Kim Hogg of Precision
Schematics.
Thank you, Screwmatic, sorry, was going to get an award. So I was happy that I was there and got to see that. The information that you had, not that, but some of the other sheets that you have there are confidential information. So I need for you all to be very, very careful with this information about the new solar farms, that kind of thing. Let's see. One other sheet that you have there are two packets that are about RFIs. So that's a lot of what we do. Lisa and Courtney do a lot of that. It's a lot of work. We filled out 41 of those last year. We submitted 20 on 29, and on 12 projects we did not submit. And so on the solar spreadsheet, you're going to see the solar farms that are in operation. Next are the solar farms that we have approved. There's 7 of those. And there are other companies that have approached us. Not all of those are down there, and some of those may need to come off of the other companies. But this is, I'm going to let you all pass this down. What I'm passing out right now is, it's just a small spreadsheet with the actual projects that have been approved now. And Courtney was not here, so I could not get it fancy looking, so I did the best I could on that. We have, like I said, 2 farms that are operational, 7 that have been planned that will be built over the next several years. All of those farms with the collective acreage is about 1% of the acreage in Chesterfield County. A good many of the other farms that have approached us, but we've told them to just wait until we come up with what kind of process we want to do. If we did those farms, it would be about 1.5%, I think. I don't have the final numbers on those, but that gives you an idea of what we're looking at. Especially for you new guys on council, the solar farm that we just approved was Seaboard with Duke Energy. The amount of money that we were taking in on that property was around $1,100 each year in property taxes. We are now going to be taking in an average of $295,000 for the next 30 years. The thing about solar farms is we don't have to do anything. We don't have to, it's not more kids in school. It's not more. So I just wanted to point that out to you all. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then y'all can ask any questions you've got. We've tried to come up with a new process of how to go about solar farms so that you all understand, the public understands, and the companies that have approached us, so we have one policy. So we've been working with the codes department, with the administrator, and our office. The sheet that just went, the suggested solar farm process, do you all have that? Excuse me, let me back up just a minute. I meant to point out the last sheet in the big packet. Apologize, if you'll go back to that big packet. Clay at 911 helped us with this map, and he circled each town in orange, so you can just kind of not look at the orange. But those are all the solar farms that have been approved. So you can see where they are. They're a lot down Town Line. But anyway, I thought you might want to see that, about where the farms are. Back to the process. This is what we're thinking about, and we want to get your input. The prospective solar farm company will come to our office. We will discuss it with codes and administration, and if we think it's suitable, meaning not property that would be better used for industrial development, then we will come to you all in executive session of county council and present the project to you. If the general consensus is positive, I'll go back to the company and say, we can start, I can't guarantee anything, but we could start the process. I would let the company know. Then we would have first reading by title only. If it passes, the next month would be likely second reading. And we're not sure exactly about the timing. This is kind of a loose, where we've got to figure out how long things have to be in the paper, that kind of thing. But we will, after the second reading, we want to let residents know, not us, but the solar company will be required to let the nearby residents, and we don't know how broad that is, but nearby residents know about it. And the solar company will request a zoning hearing. And if that passes, the company submits their decommissioning bond and the building permit to codes. I have some suggested changes that I've discussed with some of you for the zoning in the county. You can see those there. So I think it would be a good idea if we had a buffer on the road so that it's not as noticeable. I've worked with Mr. Ford on trying to come up with something that's better for the environment, better for everybody all around. So we would like to have pollinator-friendly plantings in the solar farm on the ground, to be determined what those are, but something that would be good for the environment. We would like to request that they be built with a battery, so that means that they're able to be, they could be better utilized that way. And then let residents know around them. So I just wanted to bring this to you all and see what you thought about it. And do you have questions?
Ms. Lear, how many do we have interested now?
Probably serious now, 4, I think. Some have kind of just addled on off because we,
You got a total number of acreage?
I don't have the total acreage on the new ones, but it would equal about 1.5% of the area of all the land in the county. With what we're building right now, it's gonna be 1%.
1%.
Would it make sense, and I don't know how often this happens, but before something goes to its zoning hearing, for it to, well, let me rephrase that, before something is finished here with full council, for it to have already been through planning and zoning? Because from what I understand, we just had that happen recently for something we passed here 2 years ago. And it shouldn't be that should be a done deal. I mean, I don't know what the reason would be for that being delayed.
Well, Duke always did their projects, they got zoning passed first and then came to us. But we've talked about different ways, I'm trying to think of the various reasons we would want to have it come here first.
I mean, that's kind of a chicken and egg problem.
Like, so what happened recently, and I'll just tell you, so I get a call from my zoning guy, and he's like, hey, man, are you okay with this? And I'm thinking he's talking about something we've talked about lately, and it was one from 2 years ago, which, of course, I'm okay with it, but why is it just now going to them after we've already approved it, and now they've tabled it?
Right.
So, I mean, wouldn't it make sense? I don't know
Yeah.
the name of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I've learned from dealing with these companies, and Duke has given me a lot of information, these projects get planned, and they do RFPs, like several different areas. They'll plan one project in several different areas, and then a year or two later, their company will say, okay, let's do this one there now. That's why it's just weird the way it works, but all the ones that are planned might not necessarily be built here.
Right.
Is what they told me, because.
But
they
would that
go through
affect
their
when it
process.
went to zoning? I mean.
It could. I mean, that's a company decision, and there are things in our zoning ordinance that are required that they're gonna have to spend significant money on. For a Duke, that's not an issue.
But wouldn't that still be beneficial for them to know that before we?
It would.
Final decision?
It would.
I'm looking to avoid us making a decision on
Right.
something that.
It
that's not
would.
in for 2 years.
And, I think what we had kind of informally told them is at least wait until there's either first reading or an inducement resolution passed by council before you go to the zoning board.
So you all know something about it.
Right.
It doesn't just come out of the dark.
If I may, Ms. Burns? This is directed toward our attorney. Now, my understanding, if I understood my colleague correctly, that they went to zoning and it was tabled,
Right.
okay, which now our zoning board only recommends, correct?
No, sir.
They
On-
can't
on-
turn it down? They cannot.
On that particular issue, the zoning board's job is to review the zoning requirements to make sure that the company is meeting the zoning requirements, because that's we have about 6 or 8 particular uses that fall under that section that have to go before the zoning board because they have special requirements. And in this case, what the company has to do, they have to go to the zoning board and show the zoning board, okay, we meet these requirements of your zoning ordinance.
And apparently, the zoning board was not happy with what they prepared.
Yes, sir. That's my understanding. I was not at the
They didn't
meeting.
deny it, they just tabled it.
Right.
So that gives
I
the,
think
I'm
they just
assuming,
weren't sure I think they had some new members on there, and I just think there's a little bit of confusion over what they were supposed to do.
I think that they had some people, I didn't come, but what my person said is that they had some folks there who hadn't really done this much before and weren't familiar with the process, and so they had some, constituents come complaining about the project, not understanding that it's not up to them whether or not they think it's a good idea. They're just there, they're tasked with knowing whether or not
If it
you're
meets
meeting the criteria.
right.
That's correct.
Because the citizens were there, and they were so upset that people who were making the decision didn't feel comfortable making the decision, they just didn't understand. So I think now that they realize that they were complaining to the wrong people, they should have come to us and not them. I don't think it's gonna be an issue anymore. I think
So, I mean, what is the next step for those folks,
for the people who.
for the project itself?
For the what now?
What is the next step for the project if zoning tabled it?
Well, they're gonna meet again tomorrow, and so they're gonna make a decision whether or not they fall within the guidelines of zoning, yes or no, and then they're just gonna tell us yes or no whether they do or they don't.
Okay.
So it's not subjective.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to interrupt, and that decision would not come back to council. That is intentionally under state law separated from council. That decision, if there's an appeal of that decision either way, that has to be brought in circuit court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we out of it.
Yes, and again, that's done intentionally, so council's not making,
I mean, the room's not gonna be full here next month of
If it is, there will not be anything you can do about it, put it that way.
They want to come
Again,
and speak in public comments,
Sure.
that's fine.
again, that process is, and that's by state law, decisions of zoning boards are appealed directly to circuit court.
Circuit court.
They don't come back they wouldn't come back to county council for any kind of action.
Thank you, sir.
So that's why one of the reasons I wanted us to talk about it, because the folks that were at the zoning hearing were like, we didn't know anything about this. So we were just trying to figure out a way to kind of accommodate everybody.
Yeah, I think any of these situations, we need to give the community, especially the adjoining property owners, ample opportunity to let their voice be heard, whether they're for it or against it, no matter what it is. And I think that goes back to Mr. Kirkley's idea of the social media stuff too. I mean, I think that's all things that we could be putting out just for the people to know. That's some of the biggest complaints I get, is just not knowing what's going on.
And that's the big reason we needed to talk about it. So, and then also going forward, do we want to do more solar farms? Do we want to look at each one individually? You all can think about that, but
I mean, I know I'm not a huge fan of them, been pretty opinionated about it, but, you know, I think if we put things in place to protect the surrounding property owners, that is reasonable, and, you know, I think there's some give and take there for me. You know, I'm not a huge fan, but I also don't believe in telling people what they can and can't do with their land. So, but I do think we need to protect the adjoining property owners, and I think we need to protect the road frontage, like you have in here, you know. I think that's my position on it.
I think Darlington County does it where they notify landowners within a certain distance. And I've just checked with other folks to see how they do it, and I like the buffer, the frontage buffer, because that's not something that we had in place, and that definitely would make it, that's a game changer.
and I was mistaken. For some reason, I saw buffer, but that's, you know, on the sides. And so I incorrectly told some people, oh, it's not, you're not going to see it. But I don't know what all has to happen for there to be zoning changes. You know, I don't know.
The way that process would work, anybody can recommend changes to the zoning ordinance, but those changes have to go to the planning commission, which of course we now have a new joint planning commission, and they're given 30 days to review that, and then that does come back to council, and then council has to pass an ordinance, of course, to amend the zoning ordinance. So that's the way, if council wanted to suggest changes, they can certainly do that, but it does go to the planning commission. They're given, I think it's 30 days, it may be 60, but whatever the time limit is in the zoning ordinance, that then does come back to council for the 3 readings and public hearing.
Right. And Mr. Curtis, I think that was what you were thinking about earlier.
Right.
The planning commission can make a recommendation, and we can say.
Correct.
That's right, I was confused. I was confused as
Yep.
usual.
Right.
Me too. There were some questions that you all had asked back, like in August, September, October. I met with some of you individually and kind of went over the answers, but please call me. I'll be glad to come to the office and we'll go over whatever you want to. I'll be happy to explain what we've got going on. Let me just say once again that the RFI sheet, the sheet about the projects and where they are, and the solar spreadsheet with the companies that are thinking about it, that is highly confidential information. So please be really careful with that information.
Do you want us to return those to you?
I think that'll be wise.
Well, I would feel good about that, but I don't want to not give you time to look at it either. What do you suggest, Madam Chairman?
I think you'll keep us updated on anything.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Better to have it in your hand than
That way you know of a surety that nothing is getting out.
You want the whole thing? Just give it all back.
This package, no, she want the whole thing.
Here, you want to share this picture?
Anyway, you won't be in our possession. There you go.
Yeah, that's the one with the project. I need that one. And I
Six to me.
If I share the graph, you need it.
No, those are done.
I will say, Brand, you have just endured the longest council meeting of my tenure.
I wondered, man, I was like, it's gonna be like this every week? No, sir, I hope
Yes, sir. Well, hey, welcome aboard.
Wait till next month. It's gonna be like this every week, every month.
Cap off economic development. Madam
Once a month, but
Okay, there's a motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded.
can, oh, no. No, go ahead, I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
Ethan's providing dinner for.